Hey everyone, it's Mike from Foster DevOps, and today we're going to set up Azure Active Directory and Azure DevOps for SSO and integrations with your Backstage application. So here it is. So the Azure Active Directory will allow for SSO, and it will have the users use their Active Directory login to have an identity in Backstage and be able to sign in. The Azure DevOps will be for the integrations that will allow for repository provisioning as well as reading repositories for the software templates and the software catalog. So that's just some background information for implementation. And in the end, what we'll be able to demo is using an Azure AD account to log into Backstage, as well as having the ability to log into Backstage and create a repository through the software template. So to begin, I'm going to navigate to our Chrome browser, and right now I have this Azure DevOps Organization open for Foster DevOps, as well as the Azure Active Directory opened for Foster DevOps. And we're going to start with the Azure Active Directory. So we can go into Active Directory and go to App Registrations, and we're going to create a new registration. Now, here we can name the app registration, and I'm going to call this Foster DevOps Backstage. And this will be single tenant, and I will select web and have the callback be HTTP localhost API / localhost, and then our backend port, which is 7007 on a localhost with API auth Microsoft handler frame. And I'm going to make a note in the name, local Foster DevOps Backstage. Okay. So once this is set, I can register the application. And now I have the application. So some important things I will use are this application or client ID, as well as the tenant ID. So let's implement those into our app config. Here I am in the working directory for Backstage, and I will just open my editor in Backstage and go to my appconfig.yaml. And now I can go to auth and see I already have the GitHub provider. Right above it, I'm going to add the Microsoft provider as well. And the development lifecycle, and have the client ID equal to my auth Microsoft client ID. And I'm going to just have some spacing here, and then client secret equal Microsoft auth client secret, and this will be tenant ID Microsoft tenant ID. So I'm going to copy these values and put them into my .env. So I can go to my third terminal, which is just a deploy of, actually, I'm going to create a new terminal session in the same working directory. I'm gonna move this over so it's right next to it. So this is my first terminal and my second terminal, and I am going to vim into my .env and paste my secrets, so I just have them for reference. So I'm gonna do export and then have that equal to a string, and then do the same here, export, and then have that equal to an empty string, and here export this into an empty string. Okay. So let's grab these secrets. My first one is the client ID, and that's just here. Copy that and paste. And then I want the tenant ID. I will copy that, and that goes on line 6. And now I need a client secret. So to configure a client secret in my Azure AD application registration, I'm going to go to certificates and secrets, and I'm going to click create new client secret, and I'm just going to call this local development, and I'm going to set this to expire tomorrow, so that no, I want it to start today, expire tomorrow, so that you cannot use it after watching this video. So that's the secret ID. Here's the value for the secret, and I will put that in here. And now I have all of my secrets that will load in. So I can source.env, and now I have my Microsoft provider pointing to all the correct secrets. So now I want to, we can go to this and do a yarn dev, and we should have, and I'm just going to open up, localhost, and see we still only have GitHub, so let's go back and into our editor and go to packages, app, source, and then you should remember we created a providers, so I'm gonna make this a list. So we created providers, and we can add a identity provider. So we're going to make this a list. And just going to copy, paste this into, and rename this for the Microsoft Auth API ref. So, copy this, paste, and change this to Microsoft Auth API ref. And this is from the core plugins again, and we can go down here. I'm just going to change this word to Microsoft Auth Provider. I'm going to call this Azure Active Directory. Sign in using Azure AD. And this is going to be Microsoft Auth API ref. Okay, so I saved this. I'll save this. Let's see if the Webpack is built. No, and let's see, what's the error? Dev. Let's just restart my server and see. Okay. So it looks like the same issue as we were running into before. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So now you should see we have the sign-in for Azure Active Directory. So all I did was change the providers from provider to providers. So I made this plural, and then I imported the list of providers for this. And just for an experiment, I'm going to remove that and reload. So yeah, and then I'm just passing in providers to it through this. And yeah, I think I might be able to remove this as well. No, so it still needs providers, that list from above. And then I also added the Microsoft Auth provider here, as well as the Microsoft provider in the app config. But it really is that straightforward to configure the SSO, and then I will sign in. And if everything works well, so I will also need a sign-in resolver to work this. Okay. So I need a sign-in resolver in the back end. So I can add this to the back end in the plugins auth.ts, and I will create a new one for Azure. This is going to be called Azure and then this is fine. And we can change this user reference. And let's see, this is going to be a little different for each. This is going to be more of a custom sign-in resolver. So this is going to be a Azure issue a token given the user ref. Okay. So now that this is saved, I'm going to source my .env and then rerun my server. And let's see. Yeah, it should be. Okay. So cool. Let's go back to here and say there's an issue. Let's see. Let's go down to here. And then these are both in line, but this is not. So entity, and then that, and then this. Okay. So I need, what am I missing here? Okay, I need these two lines. Okay. Let's go back to the server and rerun. Should be successful this time. No. Reading create. Reading create. Sure. Dot create. Okay. This is a new sign-in resolver, so let's go here. Okay, I am just going to go back and let's just create this sign-in resolver. This is going to use the Microsoft resolver, so I think there's built-in resolvers for this. Let's see. Should have, yeah. So yeah, this is going to be Microsoft. And it will be .create. So let's go up. Okay, here we want the GitHub one, and then we want Microsoft to have a sign-in and the resolver, which is going to be a profile. And we will have, we're going to implement this logic in here to be if the profile.email and we're just going to throw an error if there's no email. Email, okay. And then we will advanced local part profile dot email dot split. So what we're doing right now is implementing a sign-in provider to allow us to sign in and parse the sign-in for Backstage. Entity ref. Stringify entity ref. Okay. And this is going to be in object kind user. And here we're just creating the GitHub, or not the GitHub, the this is creating the let's see. Okay, cool. We are creating the sign-in resolver that will send. So I'm going to return the context, and it's going to have a token that will be claims, and it's just going to be the user entity ref, and the entities will be the user entity ref. And now we can rerun the server, and let's see if the Azure AD will now work. And it should. Now, I need to import the default namespace. So, default from catalog model, and I need the stringify. I have that above, so let's add this, and then I think we have all of the providers. And let's see if this will work. So yeah, cool. We just needed to implement the sign-in provider, and now you can see that this user entity is my username at, so it's username at whatever this will be. So now that we have SSO implemented, we can implement the Azure AD integrations very simply by going up to my user account and generating a personal access token. And I will add a new token called Foster DevOps Test, or let's call this dev. And I want to read, write, and manage, and read, write, and manage there. And I want to read releases. Actually, I want to read, execute, read, and read. Okay, I'll create those, copy this. Now that I have the token, I'm going to put it into my .env. This is going to be the export. This is going to be Azure token, and I'll source the .env, go back here. Then I will add to my app config the integration. So perfect. Here I want to add in the Azure integration, so it'll just be Azure host will be dev.azure.com, and token will be my Azure token. And let's go back here and yarn dev. That was Azure. That was Azure ADO and Azure AD for SSO and integrations with your Azure accounts. I hope you all learned something, and next we will be setting up the PostgreSQL database for Backstage. Thanks everyone, and let's keep fostering DevOps.